Hello, everyone. My name is Esteban Maldonado, and I'm a developer advocate at Unity. And this is a session on how to create competitive multiplayer games in a much more faster way with Unity 6. So, yep, that's me. So this is going to be like a little reduced version of the GDC talk that I gave at the Developer Summit on Monday. But you're gonna get to see a lot of the tools that we talked about during that day. So. In our journey, what we're going to be doing today is that I'm going to show you how you can, with Unity 6, you can go ahead and choose your packages that you need in order to get started with your multiplayer development. Then I'm actually going to show you how you can automatically create your first network scene. And then we're going to test that network scene with virtual players, so like simulated virtual devices. And then we're going to actually take that scene online. And last but not least, we're actually going to be exploring a new competitive action template that we've been working at, and we launched last year in December. So with that, let's actually jump into Unity 6. All right. Okay, so here we are in Unity 6, and we are in a new project. You've probably seen this a 1,000 times. Now, whenever you want to get started with multiplayer development, you can actually go ahead and go here, into Window. You go into this section called Multiplayer, and then right here, you choose this cool little option called the Multiplayer Center. Now, the Multiplayer Center is a new window, it's a new tool that actually helps you to kickstart your multiplayer development. And the main entry point for this, instead of focusing on what kind of tools do I need, it's what shared experience, what multiplayer game do I want to create. And we have a couple of genres here that you can go ahead and choose from. So depending on what kind of shared experience you want to create. So we have adventure, arcade, platform, sandbox. So we're talking about action games. So I'm going to choose something a little bit related to that. So I'm going to go ahead and choose shooter over here. Then we're going to be choosing the number of players per session. But it's really more, think about it like the number of maximum concurrent players. So players playing at the same time that you're going to have. But you're not actually set to any of these amounts. So we see options like 2, 4, 8, and whatnot. But you can still, if you choose something like 16, you can still make like a 5 versus 5 game. Like this is not like a hard set limit that you need to then restart if you change your mind. No. So I'm gonna go ahead, choose something like 16. And definitely this screen, you're probably thinking this screen is definitely much more populated. There's a lot of information here. So what I can tell you is that when you go ahead and choose your genre and amount of players, like the settings will actually work by default. Like the default settings, you're actually good to go and proceed. But depending on what kind of when you try this at home, feel free to mix and match. Like for example, if you go ahead and choose something more like a card battle, turn-based, like we see that we get different recommendations. Like for example, other packages that are not recommended. And perhaps over here, you might, if you're making like a card battle game or like an online one, you may not necessarily have the need for voice chat or text chat, but you can go ahead and make changes in recommendations. But the next step would actually be to go ahead and install your packages. But and right there, that'll actually start to linearly, one by one, installing all of the packages that you need. So you're already saving time right there and then. So I'm gonna set things to how I had them before. So I'm gonna aim something for like a shooter. And like I mentioned, the next step would be to install the packages. But I've already gone ahead and done that for presentation purposes. It's like, and then you have access into this cool section called the quick start content. So because the next step would have been to let's actually create our first network scene. And we have this cool little button right here, create an open scene with netcode setup. So I'm gonna go ahead and press this button, but I want you to pay attention here into the scene hierarchy. So here we go, 3, 2, 1. So what Unity's doing right now, is that it's importing a bunch of assets that you need in order to get started, and it's actually creating a scene for you, including importing scripts and importing prefabs and scene files. And it also opened this cool little window, but I'm gonna get back to it very momentarily. So let's go ahead and close the multiplayer center for now. And we see that now we are working with this menu that we can interact with, which is and it gives us two options, like start host and start client. So let's go ahead and press play and check it out. So the two options that we get here is like starting host is to actually start a new networking session. And let's go ahead and do that right now. So, and as you can see, it looks like it's right now because it was loading the shaders, but we have a little character that we can actually move around. And you might be wondering, okay, like it's a cube, it looks good, but like it's still a cube. But this is already a network scene, and this is already using our multiplayer technology. It's just it's a very simple starting point. So you can go ahead and move it around, and you have a session that's running locally on your machine. So we have our first network scene, and we also installed our tools. Like, let's go ahead and actually try to aim and finish our second goal, which is to play the scene, but testing our gameplay, testing our network functionality. So let's go ahead and stop. And in the past, this is one of the coolest things. In the past, you had to, and when I say in the past, I actually mean 2022.3. You had to go into File and build in your scene, which takes minutes, and every time you do it, like it can be frustrating. It can be a time waster if you have to do it every time. But no, in Unity 6, you actually now have this cool tool that you can find under Window, Multiplayer, and it's called the Multiplayer Play Mode tool. Now, this is the little window that opened up earlier. So this tool actually allows you to add up to 3 virtual players that you can test your scene with side by side. So in the past, you had to build the game, but now if you go ahead and let's enable player 2. So I went ahead and clicked on it, and what Unity's doing right now is that it's creating a second game window. Think of it like a read-only copy of your project, where you don't have editing functionality, but you can actually still play the same scene. Okay, so let me rearrange the windows real quick. Kind of put them side by side. Let me do a quick change here. Sorry, like the resolution definitely should have updated, but there we go. Okay, now we can have a much better view. Okay, so let's put our windows side by side and actually play with our player. And let's go ahead and repeat what we did before. Starting the host. Okay, so far so good. We have our character. And now we can go ahead and start the client. And as you can see, right there and then, our gameplay is synchronized and our movement is synchronized, and we can go ahead and play our network scene side by side. Like very, very cool, very fast, and this is the kind of tools that they're actually even game jam friendly. Like you can actually participate and add your own features in a 48-hour game jam if you wanted. So, all right. So the next step is to what I mentioned is take the scene online, right? So let's think about that. Whenever you're playing a multiplayer game, you're interacting with some UI that actually lets you either find a match, like find other players that you can play with. So that means that we need to create this new UI to interact with, to give our players so they can find a common place to play. So one of the cool things in Unity 6 is that we have those pre-made elements for you. So let's go ahead and bring back our multiplayer center. And we're back in our quick start section, but here we have in our quick start content, but here we have this section called connecting with players. And we see that it says right here, this project is currently set up to use Unity services. So how did I get that? So when I go ahead and create my new project using the Unity Hub, you make sure to go ahead, give it a proper project name, a location. You've done that 1,000 times, but this right here is something that you should definitely do in order to get this result. So when you create your project, make sure to choose an organization, which one will be given to you by default when you create your Unity account. But this right here, this little check mark, when you go ahead and create your project, will create a dashboard project, a cloud project for you, and automatically link up your editor project with the cloud dashboard project for you to interact with our services. All right? So I'm gonna go ahead and cancel that because I already have my project open and my project created. But here we have this cool button that says Add Widget Quick Start to Connection UI Scene. So meaning this scene right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and add the necessary UI that I need in order to create a lobby for my players. So let's go ahead and add that right now. So same thing as before. I'm gonna press this button, but I want you to pay attention to the scene hierarchy right here. Now, so same as before, Unity is now importing additional assets, and it is modifying the scene that we were working with so that it can interact with our services instead of connecting directly to a particular UI. So instead of connecting directly to a UI, which by default is the local host, then now it's going to be having a new way to interact with it. So let's go ahead and go back into our scene. And now we see that we can interact with a new menu. So this time, it's not about starting a host or starting a client. Now it's creating a session, copy your join code. So you're gonna get a unique join code that you can share with your friends when you share this project with them, and they'll be able to enter the lobby code and join online. So, and the cool thing is like, okay, you have this menu by default, but now you can actually add other widgets as well. If you go ahead and right click on the scene, the same way that you can add like empty objects, like 2D objects, like now you have a new section called multiplayer widgets. And you can add these elements for creating a session, joining or leaving a session. This one I really like a lot, which is the list of sessions that are publicly available. So you can go ahead and add this little element right here. And go ahead and move it to the side a little bit. And if you'd like to, we can actually add communication to our scene. So we actually have a text chat widget that you can add as well. And already right there, fast and easy to go, we have a window that players can go ahead and create a lobby, join a game, and even have text chat as well. So now pay attention to this because this is one of the coolest things that actually blew my mind when I saw these tools for the first time. So I made all of these changes, and remember that I told you that you had to rebuild the client again and wait a few minutes in order to test your game to see if it works. Now, if I go ahead and bring the other window, bam, right there and then, by just saving the scene, our second player is already good to go. And like, I see you're excited. Hell yeah, thank you. Nice. So now let's go ahead and play the scene. All right, we're good on time. Like, good on time, having fun. Like, all right. So now we have our scene playing side by side. Remember, we're not connecting directly, right? So let's go ahead and create our first online session, and let's say something like GDC _ 2025. Let's go ahead and create our session. And right now, Unity is actually communicating with our services. A brand new lobby was created, and this is actually playing online. You know, it's a very simple scene that even right now, even on this internet where everybody's connected, but it's still playing, you know, quite good. We see in our list of sessions that if we refresh, here we have our session GDC 2025. Now let's go on the other side and do the opposite. Let's actually go and join a session. So let's say that we have a player that they're actually gonna go ahead and join, and they find the session, and they can go ahead and just click join right here. And that's one of the reasons I like this widget, because they could have actually copied the code and pasted it over here, but no, like this is one of the faster ways to actually find the session. But check it out. We've joined the session. We have our lobby code here, and we have the same one over here, and we have our player, our movement being synchronized, and we even have our chat that can work as well. So, and just in case for some reason somebody's not behaving, not playing nice, the host can just go ahead and just bam, kick out the other player, just in case, you know, in case you have a player that's not behaving, not being a cool person. So, all right. So now, in a matter of minutes, in real time, I've actually taken a scene from nothing, basically imported the assets, installed the packages, and actually taken the scene online. So this is a good spot where you can actually add more features and add more UI and more gameplay. But I wanted to show you how that could look like by showing you the new competitive action template that we've been working at. And I could go ahead and show you some additional tools that you can use for your development. So, gonna go ahead and jump right here into our new competitive action template. So the way that you can actually get this template is by going back into the Unity Hub, and when you go ahead and create a new project, you search competitive, and you find it right here, competitive action template. Let me switch my Unity 6 versions because I have it downloaded here. But same as before, make sure to leave your connect to Unity Cloud checkmark when you create the project, because that way, again, it links up your editor project to the Unity's multiplayer services. Okay. So let's go ahead and play our scene. I want to show you at least how it looks like by default. When you go ahead and start, this is me starting the game scene directly. You can go ahead, fire, shoot around. It's a very simple template, straight to the point, but easy to use. And all of it is running with netcode for entities and entity component system, or it's usually called DOTS as well, for faster gameplay and a more data-oriented way of working. Okay, so for those of you that may not be familiar, game objects get converted into entities when working with entity component systems. And those game objects that get converted into entities live in these subscenes right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and open my game subscene and look at my hierarchy. And we see, and we see that we have a couple game objects that are gonna be converted into entities that are currently disabled. Let's go ahead and enable some hovering platforms for our players to actually might be able to get like a higher ground advantage, and I have this party balloon spawner ready to go, which is basically like a little bit of target practice for the player to shoot at. Now I'm gonna go ahead and play the scene. And you can go ahead and practice adding some features here. You can go ahead and practice your own gameplay code. And if you go ahead and press the P key in my sample, you have this little spheres that spawn around. And let's go ahead, and this is, I'm gonna go ahead and shoot them, but this is currently not going to work. Okay, but why? Let's go ahead and fix that. Let's go into the prefab and see what's going on. So, gonna go ahead and quit playing my scene, and we see that our shooting target spawner has this little party balloon spawner component. Now let's go ahead and look into our party balloon prefab. So we have cool components like here, transform, sphere mesh render, okay, all that good stuff. So here we have a very important component called the ghost authoring component. This is the component that helps you to make replicated versions of your entities. So remember back in the other demo where we were seeing the synchronized game objects, and the synchronized entities, and they were moving from they were getting a synchronized movement, right? So when player 1 was moving, player 2's device was seeing a ghost or a replicated version. And this is the component that actually helps us to synchronize that game object and that data. Now we have here this component that is the health authoring component. I'm gonna go ahead and enable it, but I'm also gonna go ahead and inspect the script a little bit. So the difference when working with components in entity component systems, you actually don't deal with components that have functionality. You deal with components that are just data. And systems like our other pieces of code that update and manipulate that data. So when working with entity component systems, like the way that you make a component be multiplayer or synchronizable is that you add this little attribute called ghost component on top of it, and then you add the ghost field. So ghost field means if a ghost is a replicated version of an object, a ghost component and a ghost field are respectively a replicated version of that component and that data. And this is a very easy workflow to work with, because this is the same way that you make components for offline games, with the exception of adding these attributes. But if you were making offline games with dots or ECS, if you were making a shooter, you would still make this component a struct called health that inherits from this component interface with a max health and a current health. Like beyond those two attributes, all of that is the same code as offline code. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and go back into my scene. And I'm gonna go ahead and play. I'm gonna go enable my target practice, and there we go. Now I can actually destroy our practice targets. Okay. Now the last thing I want to show you is another tools that are actually very specific when using this netcode solution, netcode for entities. So I'm gonna go ahead and give this scene a little bit of more ground, a little bit of more geometry. Now, remember, all of this stuff that I actually added, I added for my presentation purposes, so when you download this yourself and try it yourself, it's not gonna have all of these extra features, but again, it's a good place to practice. But I'm gonna go ahead and close my subscene. I'm gonna go ahead and play the game again. And, okay, we see that this is definitely a much wider, much open world. And I'm just me like shooting around. So that means that it would be very useful to find like maybe 20, 15 players or something to join me. But let's say I don't actually have that much people to play with me, right? So when we go into here, into Window, Multiplayer, and these tools, Play Mode tools, these are tools specifically for the netcode solution to work with dots. But we have this cool little field right here called thin clients. Now, thin clients are dummy players that you can spawn and give some random behavior, some random input in order for you to like maybe stress test your scene with many players when you don't have that much people available. So I'm gonna go ahead and set this to maybe like 20. Now, please bear with me. This is the part where I have to say my first-person shooter skills are not the best. I don't play first-person shooters, so if you see me get destroyed, have a little bit of empathy with me, for me. So, gonna go ahead and enable better view. And as you can see, we see that our players are going ahead and moving around, and they're shooting, and they're destroying each other. I'm so far so good. But this is a way that you can actually try and stress test your scene for when you're making your own game, especially when you're making your own action games like that. And if you want to try out your scene in much worse or different internet conditions, then you actually have this section right here, which is client network emulation. And client network emulation actually lets you to simulate poor internet conditions. So you can actually simulate something a little bit standard, or you can take it all the way and simulate like a very, very bad internet connection with a lot of lag. So I'm gonna go ahead and see, I told you that I was getting destroyed in the background, right? So now my game is definitely playing much more slower, but still I can go ahead and see that my gameplay, so far, it's still a little bit balanced, and we get a lot of benefits of the game being able to play like this, because Netcode for Entities has built-in client-side prediction for these kind of games, these kind of action games, where you need a better physics accuracy when simulating your games. So the last thing I definitely wanted to show you is that you can actually, this sample actually is built to help you understand and help you learn how to apply the Unity services for dedicated game server and matchmaker. So I'm gonna go ahead, play the scene one last time, but this time I'm gonna request a session from the matchmaker. Now, what Unity is doing right now is that it's asking for a request from Unity's servers and looking for a match. So it usually takes around a minute. So if you don't have any servers that are actually woken up, it's basically saying servers wake up, somebody's requesting for a match, and they would like to play. And usually takes around a minute and a half. And if this doesn't work, maybe the Wi-Fi might be a little bit not as strong. But I actually have a window backup, a video backup. But okay. So check it out. Now we're actually playing with our dedicated game server. So this is no longer running the simulation on my own computer, but the thin clients, since they can connect directly to servers, well, they were able to connect, and you can still try, even though you're playing through our dedicated servers, you can still play with our dummy clients right there, okay? But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and finish my session, Gonna go back to my slides. Whoa. Okay, I'm getting a little bit of jankiness from PowerPoint. But one thing I wanted to tell you is that these are two amazing resources: Turbo Makes Games and CodeMonkey. Amazing tutorials. Sorry if the rendering is going a little bit. I changed resolutions midway through, but these are amazing resources. And with that, I say thank you very much. And yes, please feel free to fill out the survey if you can. Help us out so that we can get a little bit of feedback. Feel free to share what kind of stuff you would like to learn. And thank you very much. I'll be around, available for questions. Yes. Thank you.